Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out for our April Policy Committee meeting. And we're going to move on with the agenda. For 1.01, we're going to hand the floor over to Mr. Ed Porter, our Deputy Superintendent.
Thank you. This is policy 106, school visits by individual board members. This was brought to the full board for the previous two meetings. We were asked to reconsider defining the duration of days for requests to go visit a building, and Dr. Manning Campbell and I are in agreement. So we removed defined as 5 days and left everything else the same.
Thank you. Madam President, any questions or comments?
No, I didn't have a problem with the 5 days, so I don't have a problem with it out either.
I concur. Thank you. Ms. Ford, 102, please.
Sure. So this is voting procedures. If you recall, when we met the last time in March, we talked about the timing of policy review, and we wanted to make sure that all policies that had anything to do with the elections and the budget were up to speed and up to alignment with regulations. And Margot actually took this policy and revised it based on what we're required to do, not what we want to do. And I think that's what we discussed at the last meeting. Margot, can you add clarification?
Well, I had understood that a board member questioned whether or not this was law or the district's choice to say that you could not apply for an absentee ballot more than 30 days, before a vote. And that's the law. It's not your choice. It's not my choice. That's when they changed the law in 2019, they put that provision in.
So just for clarification, our policy is making ourselves come in compliance with the law.
Right. Your annual meeting notices have all been in compliance since 2020, which was the first year it would have been effective. So this is just making sure that your policies, and you would have followed the law rather than your policy anyway, but it's better to have the law consistent with policy.
Thank you.
I think the policy consistent with law.
Thank you. Thank you. Madam President, any questions or comments?
None, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to 1.03.
Just point of clarification. Mr. Howard, will these be first reading and adopt?
First reading adopt, yes.
Both of them. Thank you. Mr. Howard, I was requested to add policy 411 onto our agenda for conversation.
Absolutely. So, let me backdrop this. So, as I said in my email to the superintendent and to the board president, I've been bombarded in public in regards to our 5411. And upon doing research myself and just asking questions, it's just, to me, I think it's something that we need to revisit. I think it's too punitive. I think, and the question that I'm getting in public is, why are we punishing people next year for things that happened this year? And the question that's being asked is that, why can't we do a better job, or can we do a better job monitoring and giving our scholars assistance in real time, as opposed to coming to school next year and being penalized for the entire school year for something that happened in the past, that happened last year. So I guess my question in revisiting 5411 is, can we come up with a better way to put in play where better monitors how our scholars are doing currently, and provide assistance to students who are not or close to being eligible in real time. In the past, we used to use blue sheets, and it kept up with the students during the season, during their sports season, while they're academically, if they fell below a certain grade point average, or if they were failing that class, or if attendance was going bad, they were put on a blue sheet. They were removed from that they were not allowed to play games or miss practices until they brought it back up to speed, which is, I guess, basically what all the other schools in New York State are doing. And I think that, to me, it's a little too punitive for kids to be, it's almost double jeopardy, hit them twice. Because if they're failing, or if they're below the number during the season this year, they are possibly removed, or possibly dealing with repercussions But if they end that way at the end of the year, then for the whole next year, they're ineligible. And my thing is this, with children, we have to find a way to make our kids, I don't say eligibility because academics are so important. It is the ultimate reason why we're here. But to me, we should be able to find a better way to keep scholars eligible and try to find a way to make them eligible as opposed to find a way to say they're ineligible. Because the one thing that I've done, and I've done research and I've talked to so many people upon, and I need you to really understand what I'm about to say. We call our students scholar athletes, which are scholars that come to school, and while they're here at school, they play a sport, they participate in an extracurricular activity. But the reality in the demographics and the communities that we deal with in Newburgh Lawn City School District, we have something that I call athlete scholars. Kids that are athletes and they want to play a sport and they come to school, and while they're here playing their sport, they get an education. But to me, I think we remove the carrot when we don't allow kids to participate, and then we have the expectation, which we should contain and continue to have, that they get their academic. But the reality is, and I talk to some kids who are older, 24, 25, 30, who went through this environment. They said, you know what? Had I been able to play, I probably would have stayed in school. And a lot of those kids, I hate to say it, are part of that school to prison pipeline. And that's just a reality. Because when kids drop out of school at an early age, there's only a couple ways that they can really function or be, what they do, because these streets are real. And I think that I'm hoping we can find a better way to try to keep our kids active, engaged, and part of their sporting and athletic and extracurricular activities. Mr. Fullerton.
So, thank you. I just want to give everyone clarity as to why this current policy is written the way it is written. So this current policy states that a student that would like to participate in sports in the 23-24 school year must earn 4.5 credits during this academic year. That is still shy of 1 credit required for graduation. So there's some flexibility. In the event that individual isn't successful in the 4.5 credits, they have an opportunity to go to summer school, and they can get that credit, and then they can participate. Our main goal right now is to make sure these kids graduate.
Absolutely.
That is a huge responsibility.
100%.
When we created the standard for attendance, we set it at 85%. And if you think of what 85% is saying, 85% is saying that we say it's okay to miss 27 days of instruction every year. That is alarming to me, just to say that. But I'm going to add something else to it. If you're excused in an absence, you can be absent more than 27 days because you have an excuse note. And we're allowing, if you were sick and you were unable to come to school, we're not going to penalize you for that. So we're saying that you basically have the opportunity to have 27 unexcused days. And then if you have excused days, you can have more where you're missing critical classroom instruction. So I just wanted to preface the reason why we created this and the way we really took a look at what the standards are that we should put in it. And also state that when we were reviewed by the grand jury, we had recommendations that we were required to consider. One of those was post-season attendance and post-season academics. This standard of 4.5 credits addresses post-season, as does the 85%, because the New York State Public High School Athletic Association, I believe, sets a standard of 80% attendance
80%.
on the day of the event,
Okay.
not throughout the year. We were told that kids are coming during their athletic team, but as soon as that team is done, they begin to wane away. They begin to drift away. This is our way to keep them in school. So although I respect what you're saying, Mr. Howard, is this has to be that carrot to get those kids here. But when they're here, they have to do what's right.
And I'm not, hold on a second.
I didn't mean it that way.
I'm not, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm asking, is there a better way that we can monitor our scholars in real time? In real time. If they're below that standard right now, then we get them on a blue sheet. We make them understand, listen, your attendance is below the mark. You will not be able to play your next game until you get those letters in, until you get those reports in, or those academics in, to bring that up to a certain level. And if you don't do it, then you will not play the rest of the season. But my problem is this, Carol. We're talking about, and I'll give you the perfect example that really bothers me. Let's say we have a spring track athlete or a baseball player. A baseball player who last year, whose attendance dipped below 85. I understand what you're saying about the numbers. 83.5. Okay. But they passed all their classes. Now, forward to next year, they are ineligible. They can come to school from September through March or April of next year, have 100% attendance, pass every class, be doing everything he's required to do. And because he had 83.5 last year, he's ineligible to play baseball in the spring. Help me out with that. Mr. Howes. I'm sorry, Madam President, she was first. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I think you and Mr. Ford hit it on the head. These are not seasonal athletes. They have to be full year athletes. It has to be year round, so we can keep track of them and make sure that they're fulfilling the academic obligation as well as the athletic obligation. So I think there's a way to do that, and that is to start making the coaches, year-round coaches, number one, and having them address each student and keep track of them throughout the year as well as through the summer, so that these kids are part of the sports family that will help them and support them in their attendance and their academics.
Yeah.
We have to support the kids to be able to do what they need to do.
100%.
Now, my feeling is I don't want to adjust those numbers, but I want to look at it a different way so that we're looking at the kids as whole people and helping them to achieve what we need for them to achieve.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Hodge?
So I'm just gonna go back a little, give you a little context. This isn't like the first time this has come up in the district. So I'm gonna go back 20 years ago. I was at BOE High School, and that's Prince George's County. So at the time, I think when I was there, it was like 30 high schools there. The school was at that time 85% kids of color. Okay, so there was a big their academic so we have our focus is on attendance here, which leads to the byproduct of academics, but their focus was academics. So he hit it right on the head with the 80%. That's kind of like a low standard.
Okay.
Like if your district, if you don't follow that standard and it's just 80% for that day, that's terrible. Full disclosure, I don't have a problem with the 85%, even for the full school year. I do have some other recommendations, but from a standpoint of raising the bar, that's actually raising the bar. Even though it's 27 days out, we're still making a kid accountable come to school.
Okay.
I'm going to give you the context of Prince George's County, where all heck broke loose. So at the time, it was if you failed 2 or more classes, you were done for the year.
Okay.
So think about that.
Okay.
Okay. So
In a quarter.
in that quarter, you were done.
Okay.
So now I was a young coach, right? BOE principal came to me, they had a committee. Chris, go down there, sit on the committee, see what you can do. So all these administrators, coaches are there. They're talking. So we all, and I, raised my hand. Okay. So at the time, Prop 48, to get a Division I scholarship to be eligible to be recruitable, you had to have a 2.0. Now, isn't that low? That's low expectations, right? Prince George's County you just had to pass the 2 classes, which means you could have a D average and be eligible for your whole 4 years. So Prince George's County came out with this drastic move, and they said, starting in the fall, we're going to a 2.0. They thought all heck was going to break loose. They didn't, and I looked at it and I thought the same thing at the time as a teacher, as a coach. Okay, now we're making a kid accountable academically. So now that kid has to be in the range to be able to be recruitable.
Absolutely.
What this does is that brings a kid in the range, because if the kid's coming to school 85% of the time, 9 times out of 10, let's hope. Now, the things that you're talking about, the measures as far as like daily check-in, that's something we can add. We can add that. What I want to recommend, because I reviewed it and I did the research. I know about the Attorney General and what you went through here. The first thing I said is when I met with a young man on the track team, I reviewed his information. He had like an 82% or something like that. So the kid's walking around with his head down. Like, is there anything you can do to help me? So after thinking about it, my recommendation would be that at the end of the school year, we still don't have the policy. The policy is going to be 85%.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's the policy. What I'm proposing is that in the fall, it has to be tweaked a little bit because I didn't realize that we offered summer school. So when I originally thought about this, I didn't know that we offered summer school. So I would say, okay, when school starts now, when the kid goes home, their report card, their information should read and reflect that you are ineligible. Because I'm getting that a lot from these parents. Like, well, I didn't know, and I didn't know, and I didn't know. So at report card time, they should get a letter from the district, not from the athletic department. They should get a letter from the district, preferably with their principal's signature on it, stating that for the fall of 23-24, your student, your child is on probation. Okay. Now, the probationary period, we need to up the end because we can tweak this because now I know we got summer school. That was different. I didn't know that.
Right.
So I'm going to say that I'm going to recommend that you have to maintain 90% attendance rate. If you maintain 90% attendance rate, you are now eligible.
Absolutely. For total transparency, I wasn't saying get rid of the standards. I'm saying the 85 is good. I'm saying the 4.5 credits is good. I'm saying, what can we do, like you just said, in real time so that we can put corrective measures in action right now to help our kids? And my biggest problem, Mr. Hodgson, and I'll let you go, was coming back in September, like you said. I love the probation.
So now that I know we have summer school, then we'll have to try to, and I talked with Mr. Forget, we're gonna have to tweak that because what about this kid?
Right.
So this kid's got an 84.9 with a 90 GPA and got all of his credits or her credits. Now, what do we do with that student? Do we force that student to go to summer school? And if that student could be in a college program somewhere, you know, they don't need summer school. So originally I was thinking that if the kid comes back to the fall for the first marking period, they're going to have to sit out. But that isn't fair to my fall athletes because they're the only ones getting the hit.
Right.
So that's why I say, if we go to, even if you say 95%, you're still up in the ante, but you're giving them an opportunity.
Exactly. Because the bottom line is kids need to be.
So after I talked to you, it hit me, maybe tweak it to 95%. Because, for the first market period. Now we're telling that mom or dad, your kid is eligible to play. They have to maintain 90%.
There you go.
I just want to add a little bit here. Even you said it will hit the fall. The spring sports, perhaps that first month of the spring sport, they have to demonstrate that they're maintaining.
And this would go through
Right.
the whole
Correct.
year. It wouldn't just be the fall.
Right,
Yes,
right.
yes. Yep. Because now, and the one lady, I have to be full disclosure, the one lady had a valid point. She had twins. And I did a research on them and found like they had a little bad moment at one year here. Now they're back on track with both 90, with both A averages, and they had like an 84 something percent attendance last year. So that is a little harsh, but I understand it. But I'm just saying this way, this gives them a carrot and they have to be accountable.
Okay. So ultimately, and I'm glad we're having this conversation. I really appreciate the research you've done and the work you've done. My thing is, I just wanted to find a way or have this conversation so that we can talk about how do we get our kids eligible, number one.
Yeah.
How do we get our kids eligible? Because I do agree 100% what Mr. Forger said, the standards are good and it should be in place. We have to make sure that our kids graduate. We have to make sure that our kids are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But I will say this, we as a district, we have to do a better job in making that connectivity with those parents, with those students, and making them understand the importance of what we're talking about. Because so many of these kids, and I'm talking about bright kids, they play the dumb game on you. Oh, I didn't know. I had no clue. But no, you had to know. Go ahead, Doctor.
I have not read your recommendations. I know that you supplied them, but one of the things, just picking up on what Ms. Mineo said in terms of year-round sports, even if we have some sort of training, and I was pleased yesterday when I walked into the gym, I shot some shots now in my flats, and I may have shot at 30%. Be that as it may, it was good to see the young men in the gym shooting. So perhaps if we did have a training program during the off season, that would also help to condition not only their mind, but also their athleticism, right? So that was
Pretty much most of the teams, they all do off-season conditioning,
right.
all of them. Wrestling's doing
What
it.
we could also do is
And make sure that they're
attendance
eligible.
a mandatory component in order to participate in off-season.
So I thought about that part too. So that can also be a pride product that they have to go through the athletic department for that.
Right.
Now, one of the things I'd like to, hopefully we can move forward is if we have our, that student athletic management system, Final Forms.
Right.
That can actually become a team. So, you know, off season, it could be basketball, football, whatever, but they would have to sign up through that. And then that way that can be monitored like that.
But we've had those conversations, I'm sorry.
One of the other things I think the athletes need is they need to be able to go on to their profile or whatever on the computer and see what their data.
See that number,
So
yes.
they're, nothing is a surprise for them.
There you go.
They should be able to see it all the time. And I understand that our system, our student information system will not support that now, but come on.
It will be supporting that. I just put it into production. So what I'm hoping is I can launch notifications on parent portal and student portal next week to say the actual same eligibility that I'm giving the athletic department, parents and students, they just finished that development. It took me 6 months to build it, but it will be available. And I'm hoping for, fingers crossed, that if I can get that, and also on the third quarter report card, that their actual average daily attendance will be on their report card.
Because I agree with that, and thank you very much. We can't ask kids to perform at this level, but not let them know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
So
Stop it.
it will be there.
I think from my perspective, obviously attendance is important, academics are most important. But I do think we are a district that prides ourselves on our SEL and restorative justice activities. For students who have problems in ninth grade with attendance and who are then ineligible to participate in 10th grade, they're sitting out 2 years of extracurricular activities
Yeah.
through their own fault. But we have students who are able to demonstrate growth. We've had athletes as well as fine and performing arts students. We had a student who wanted to perform in one of our dramas who had a 95% attendance rate this year, but didn't have the attendance rate last year. We need to be able to structure a program that emphasizes the need for attendance and the need for achievement, but also recognizes the growth that our scholars and students can make to achieve those ends. We talk about student participation and morale of our student body and engagement. Not that athletics is the only venue, because it's not. Certainly academics is an example, and fine and performing arts activities and other clubs. We need to be able to have our students participate so that they can build that pride. So if we can come up with, I don't want to use the word compromise, but come up with an adjustment that would permit that, I think it would be very beneficial.
I would even say
Madam
go
President.
down to 8th grade,
So,
because some of those 8th grade athletes are not going to be ready for the rigor
Right.
and the
I
attendance
agree with that.
expectation.
so I'm gonna go deeper than that. You may not agree, but no, this is what we started over at the Armory. And one of the things I love about what Mr. Kaplan did over there, it was about getting children, because he was worried, he started asking, how come some of our better athletes or some of our better performers aren't participating or eligible for activities once they get to the high school level? So when he started in the K-5 program over there, he allowed, because he knew kids wanted to come and play sports. But one of the caveats were you can come and play soccer, basketball, whatever, but you have to take 2 academic courses while you're there. And what he tried to do at an early age with kids K through 5 is get them to understand that academics and athletics are inclusive of each other, not exclusive of each other. And when you start at an early age like that, kids automatically start thinking, well, I gotta do good in school so I can play basketball, or I gotta do good in school so I can be in the band. But that needs to start earlier than 8th grade, Carol, I really think. And
Well,
some shape or form.
modified sports start at 7th grade.
Yeah, but I'm saying even the stuff, the band and the art and stuff that we do at elementary school level, let kids understand the importance that you have to do good in school to participate, because they're drawn together. They're not exclusive of each other. If we start that earlier, you'd be surprised what that can, manifest into. Mr. Forget.
So I think you're hitting on something that we're trying to do as a district, because why are we focusing so much strictly on these expectations for just athletes or students who are in fine and performing arts? Why isn't this a unified expectation we have for every student in this district, right? Why are we only monitoring so closely those students that want to participate in athletics or in fine and performing arts? Why are they under that microscope when we have others that could be falling through the cracks that aren't engaged or connected? So that's something that we've been working on with the external monitor, Dr. Jager, to say, what is a system we can put in place where these SEL teams, our guidance counselors, our social workers, our psychologists, our principals, our assistant principals, our AIS teams of teachers can really start to take a look at the progress of these students on whether it's a 2-week, a 3-week, a 4-week basis, to say, which kids do we have to really catch up? Which kids do we have to go and love up? Which kids do we have to say, what's bothering you? What's disconnecting you? Why aren't you coming? Home visits, get to the home and find out. It shouldn't just be for these students. I understand that this is a way for us to connect and it's an opportunity, but I think the message has to be sent district wide, not just here. That's something.
Absolutely, and understand, please, everyone here. My reason for bringing this up was not to get rid of standards or lower standards, because I love the standards. I think that I wanted to find a better way to use them in real time, because the kids to be punished next year for something they did last year, it just wasn't sitting well. Madam President.
Can I make a suggestion, Dr. Campbell? Could you put a link for this meeting into the weekly?
Yes.
So that all board members can listen to this discussion? Because I think this was a really good and powerful discussion that every board member needs to hear.
Absolutely.
So that when it comes up, maybe everybody will be better prepared to discuss at a different level.
And the last link I want to bring to this, if we get more kids participating in extracurricular activity, i.e. band, i.e. sports, i.e. drama club, it's going to impact behavior in our schools. It's going to impact behaviors, I guarantee it. Because once kids understand that everything is tied together, you'd be surprised with what comes out of that. And I think that that's just a great way for us to go. Anyone else want to speak on anything? Mr. Hodge, thank you for coming out. Appreciate you.
No problem.
Going to move to adjourn. Thank you guys for coming out. Appreciate the spirit of the discussion. And like I said, whenever it's about the kids, I love it. Support it.
So we'll continue to work on this and bring it back to the next moment.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to make sure also. Remember a couple of years ago? Probationary contracts.
Well,
This should be-
I'm already fine. No, I read